Hello! Upcrate sent me another box to try out. This arrived while I was in Greece and I found it in the pile of mail that we had when I got back. I'm going to open it up today and we'll find out what art supplies are in this particular box. This comes from last year actually. This is September 2022. I have no idea what the art supplies are because I haven't looked on their website for a while. I'm going to keep it a surprise. Let's find out together and let's get into it. So I've only just got back from Greece at the time of filming this. I'm still really jet lagged, but I just thought it would be fun to open this because all of my Greek stuff is just way too complicated to deal with right now. I am going to do some videos on it. They will be upcoming, but I thought I'd do this one first just to give myself a bit of extra time to have a think about it. And this looks like fun. I can't resist a mystery box. It has to be opened immediately. And look, it's got little googly eyes. I think that's so cute. So in here are all of the art supplies, and then we have the Bottle Post magazine, which I'll take a look at in a moment. And it looks like we've got some sort of paper in the bottom here. Oh, and an artwork. And some stickers. It just keeps on coming out. Alright, that's the end of that. So I'll just put that box aside for now. Firstly, we have an artwork and some stickers by the same artist. In this case, Alba BBGG. Sort of reminding me of Egyptian, but just, yeah, odd. Yeah, I don't know what I think about the artwork. It's different. I kind of like these designs up here. They're sort of just remind me, actually, a little bit of Greek things, which is still on my mind. But I'll put those aside. We've also got some paper here. Upcrate Bristol sketch pad. Best for pencils, pens, ink markers, very smooth and white. There we go, I've taken it out of the plastic. And it looks like it's a pad, but it's in the form of a book. Oh wow, that paper is incredibly smooth. So we'll try that out, I guess, in a while, but we'll see what the art supplies are in this lovely yellow paper. We have some Spectrum Noir? No. Spectra Ad marker. Upcrate edition. I don't know that I've ever seen these markers before. It looks like they might have a brush end. I do quite like how they feel. They're kind of flat on one side, and that is indeed a brush marker, so I'm very happy about that. I always really like brush markers. So there's a selection of colours in there, and I will swatch those out in a moment. We've also got what looks like a white paint pen. La Plume. I've never heard of that brand either. Marvi? No. We're getting a few interesting different brands here that I've never seen before. There's also a Marvi for drawing 0.3, so a fine liner, pigmented ink, in waterproof. Oh, that's a nice looking pen. Just to finish everything off, we have 3 coloured pencils by Brunzil. Not sure if I've ever tried the Brunzil pencils, so these are ones that I don't actually have any of, would you believe? And we've got no colour names, only colour numbers, but it looks like kind of a yellowish greeny ochre, and then a blue and a red. But now the mystery is solved as to what was inside the box. I will swatch everything out, but before that, I think I might just go through this magazine a little bit, then we'll get an idea of what the supplies actually are, because they always list them inside, and what other inspiration we can find, which will hopefully help my artwork. I always find that flipping through the magazine really does get me on the right wavelength for what I'm going to create with the art supplies. It's good to see the actual art supplies listed in the book so you can know exactly what they are, and there are even names for the Brunzil pencils which were not on the pencils themselves, so I wrote those down a bit later. It also has a few pages on the featured artist and their artworks, and I often try to incorporate some of their art into one of my pieces that I create. I didn't do that so much this time around, although I did do a little something which I'll show you in a bit. There's usually a project to do and then some techniques as well. So I think that Upcrate do put together a pretty decent magazine, like it actually has a lot of content in it. And I really like that drawing of Mont Saint Michel in the bottom right hand corner there. I think I might want to do that as a picture one day, although I didn't do it in this video because that was way too complicated. There's usually some sort of mixing chart for the colours that are included and some ideas on how to use them. And then at the end, our previous magazine's Upcrate battles, which are entered in by different people on their Instagram page, I believe, and every month there is a prompt. This one was Mystical Interaction. I pretty much always forget that there's a prompt and I just end up doing my own thing. The mystical interaction in this case was how I managed to get anything drawn because I was so tired. The jet lag last week was unbelievably bad. And it took an entire week for me to actually be able to sleep through the night again. I was getting maybe 4 hours of sleep before I'd just wake up and then I just couldn't go back. Even though I was so exhausted, it was really horrible. But fortunately, I am finally sleeping through the night again and I'm feeling much better this week. Although it has been miserably cold in Melbourne and that's not helping either because it was nice and warm in Greece when we left. But anyway, while I was struggling, I thought I might as well swatch everything out so I could see what the colours were like and how the pens behaved. I also found the names of the pencils in the book, so I wrote those down as well, just to remind myself. We have Yellow Ochre, Sanguine, and Dark Violet, an interesting primary trio. Not quite primary, but close enough. I spent some time also matching up the numbers of the pens, because in the book they were in a different order to how the pens were. In hindsight, I probably should have just kept the pens in the order that they were in the package. It doesn't really matter, it's only 6 of them. I experimented with a few colours just to see how they would blend together, because there are 2 blues and 2 yellows, but then there's kind of a pinky colour on its own and a green, so those two didn't really go together. That comes to play a bit later in my artwork. And then I just tried a few pencils on the top of the pen and also that white paint pen. And it might have also been in the book, but I managed to find the names of the marker pen colours, so I wrote those in quickly. So when it came to this month's artwork, I think the designs I liked the best were the ones at the top of the sticker page that are all in black and white. There's something about them that's quite historical maybe, Egyptian, there's a word that I want and it's not coming to me. But for my artworks, I actually ended up doing my own thing. I just wanted to copy a few of them out on this page though because I had some space at the bottom of my swatching page, so I was just drawing some of the pictures that were on the stickers, mostly just to warm myself up and to get a bit of a feel for the different art supplies, using the marker pens over the fine liner pen to make sure it wouldn't run everywhere, and the fine liner pen did well. Once it had dried, it didn't pick up with the alcohol pens. I also did a bit of shading with the coloured pencils on the top to get a bit more definition and depth. I think I was trying to get a black with the 3 primary colours there, and using the paint pen for some white highlights. Moving on to my first artwork, and I actually took inspiration from this really cool drawing on the front of the sketch pad, and I decided to try and copy it. It's a Rolleiflex camera. And some of their vintage designs are still worth a lot of money today. I think they ended production in 2014, and I think they started around 1929. So during those decades of the 20th century, they were very popular and also very expensive, being a high-end camera. They just look so cool, I really like them. Because this box didn't come with a graphite pencil, I actually just drew everything with the coloured pencils. I went in really briefly with that yellow pencil just because it was the lightest and kind of easiest to rub out, and then I'm going over my lines with more detail using the red pencil. I was going to use the blue, but for some reason I switched to the red, it just seemed a better colour for it. It took me quite a few attempts to get it right, and I did have to attempt to rub it out. Rubbing out coloured pencils, just such a nightmare, it doesn't really work very well, but I was able to take the worst off so I could go over my mistakes and fix them up a bit. Those circular parts were really difficult to draw, it's so hard to get the proportion right, but I'm actually pretty happy with how this one turned out. And I'm pretty surprised actually, because as I said, I was very jet lagged and very tired when I did this. A lot of this was muscle memory because I have been doing quite a lot of drawing while I was overseas, and this will be something I'll show you in a few weeks' time. So I was just kind of able to work on autopilot a bit here, which was good. I also have a bit of a scab on my knuckle there because at some point during our trip home I managed to bash my hand on the plane or something and make it bleed. Don't know when I did that, but yes, it's been very annoying. It's healed up now, yay! Once I'd finished with the red lines, I did go over some of it with blue, just for some reason, but I used a kneaded eraser to take off most of the lines anyway, and then I'm going over the whole thing again with that fine liner pen. I think originally I was just going to leave it as pencil lines, but I changed my mind and decided that the fine liner would look better. and I was able to get a bit more detail with that as well. So far, all of the supplies were working really well. The paper's nice enough, although it is very smooth and the coloured pencils do not want to grip at all on this paper, so they didn't perform as well as they could have, in my opinion. But I made it work with what I had, and I did consider briefly using another piece of paper just to try out the pencils, but nah, too lazy. I really just wanted to use what was in the box, although I did end up with a couple of extra things like that kneaded eraser, and in my second artwork I've also added a couple of other things as well, which we'll see soon. This drawing took me quite a long time to do, but I really enjoyed doing it because I was able to kind of zone out and just go over my lines a few times, build up the detail as I went, and not really think too much about anything really. I tried to rub off as much pencil as possible, and now I'm going to colour it in. I decided to colour it blue even though a Rolleiflex is a black camera, but I'm using a bit of artistic license here, and I do quite like how this turned out. I built up the layers using the two blues that were in the set. One is slightly darker than the other. I noticed with the marker pens, especially on the brush side, they do seem to be a bit dry, and this was all of the pens, so I'm wondering if they have dried out a little bit because I've received a box that's many months old and they've just gotten a bit old in transit, or if it's the nature of these particular markers. It's very hard to tell. The chisel end worked a lot better, I found, and I used that actually for the larger areas. And then I'm going over with the violet blue pencil to add in a bit more depth and get some value going on in there, because both of the pens are pretty much mid-tone colours, with one being slightly darker than the other, but just not dark enough for my liking. And I added a bit of shadow underneath just so it's not floating in space, using that white paint pen to go over everything with a bit of highlight and detail. And here is how it finished up. It's a very cartoonish version of that Rolleiflex, but I do like it. And I have a second artwork to do. And I'd spent some time off camera doing the line art for this, which I then traced onto the paper using the different coloured pencils. But then once again I decided that the fine liner would look better over everything. I was thinking of the three wise monkeys, the see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil, but because I've been in Greece and there were a lot of cats, I was thinking maybe cats would be a lot more fun, and so I ended up with this. It's based off an ornament I saw on eBay, and then I tweaked it a bit just to make it a bit cuter. And the see no evil cat on the left has only one eye covered, because cats are so curious and they have to know everything. So of course they're going to look. It was just a bit of silliness, but I actually think this little drawing turned out really cute and I'm very happy with it. Cutesy stuff is what I was in the mood for, as I was still very tired, and so I just wanted something that was fun and relatively easy to do. I decided to stick with the colour scheme that I'd had in mind originally, with one yellow, one red and one blue, so I could use all of the marker pens that were in the set. And I've got two yellows here, which worked out really well, plus the yellow ochre pencil. I did not have two reds though. I've only got one pinkish colour, and then the other colour is green, which I used for their eyes, and I've also used the green in the background a bit later on. So for the second cat, I actually used a pinkish marker out of my Artex set, as you can see here, because it just wasn't really going to work otherwise. I can't get enough value with this one peachy coloured marker, it's not dark enough. But I did use it for the majority of the cat, and then the Artex marker is more just for some shadowing and detail. And yes, it's cheating a little bit using the things outside of the box, but whatever gets the job done is good enough in my opinion. And the last one, I'm using the two blues for this cat. I think the overall colour scheme for the box this time around is really good, and I do like these pastel-y colours together. I think they're really pretty. I just wish there had been a second darker pink in with that pen set. That would have been perfect. I think what I like most about art subscription boxes is not necessarily so much the art supplies themselves, but more the random ideas that I get from them. Things which normally would never occur to me, but for whatever reason, either the art supplies or even the artwork will just trigger some sort of inspiration. And I never know what's going to happen with the video when I start filming it, because it's a total surprise to me as well. This was such a great way to get back into the swing of things. I mean, I've been on holiday for probably about 5 weeks, if I include a week that I took off before we went away as well, and I was feeling a little bit rusty. So this was a fun way to do some art without feeling any pressure, and I decided to use some grey markers as well for the floor, just so that the cats have got something to sit on, plus I wanted to add in those shadows, and the rest of the background I'm going to colour in with the green marker from the set. I really enjoyed this particular box. This was September 2022, and I think as a set of art supplies they all worked well together, and I was able to get quite a lot from them. I always really like pens and pencils anyway, so this was a good box for me. Thank goodness it wasn't something like pastels, which is so much harder to use. This at least was in my comfort zone, so it wasn't too difficult. I really needed something easy with all of my jet lag, and I'm using that white pen just to add in some whiskers and a few other little details. I decided to add an outline around the kittens just to make them stand out from the background a little bit more. I just love this piece. It's fun, it's colourful and really cute. Not really the kind of artwork I normally do, but it's always fun to do something totally different, especially when it actually works out. This is definitely my favourite drawing of the day. Here's everything from today that was in the box, and the two little artworks that I was able to create using these supplies. I like how this turned out. It's pretty cute. It's maybe a bit wobbly in places, but I just think it's quite fun. And also my little camera here. I think this one turned out really cute as well. I like its cartoony feel. I liked everything in the box. I think the pencils are quite nice, although the paper is incredibly smooth and so the pencils weren't really showcased as well as they could be. I did consider doing something on some other paper, but yeah, I'm too tired. They worked well enough on here. This Bristol paper's pretty good. It's the same as any other I've tried. Maybe just a little thinner. It's hard to tell, but it still turned out quite well. And now I think about it, here's the back of the two drawings that I did. So the ink has come through, but it didn't soak onto my desk at all, I don't think. But I put on quite a lot of that green, and it doesn't seem to have come through any more than that. So not too bad. I liked the fine liner, and this paint mark is going to be very handy for future artworks. I like that it's quite thin. It does have a pretty decent point on that. There we go. I don't think I showed that earlier. And these little marker pens are nice. Maybe not the most amazing pens that I've ever used, but they're decent enough. They're quite light and I like the shape of them. They're very pleasing to hold and they feel nice in the hand. They're also not too heavy. And I'll just pull that Artex one. This feels just a little bit bigger and it is rounder, but there you go for size comparison. So this is a little bit smaller. They look really nice and they work well. I still prefer the Artex markers, but these are fine, and I'll add them into my collection of marker pens to use over time. I really like the colour combination. I just wish there had been another pinky red colour in here to make two of each, so 2 yellows, 2 reds and 2 blues, but we make do with what we have, and then we just add in a few extra things if we need it. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked seeing what was in the box. I really enjoyed opening it, and this was a fun one to get back into it with. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button for more future videos. And you might want to check out these ones, which are Upcrates that I opened last year, for more mystery box shenanigans. I hope you're having a wonderful day out there, and I'll see you all again really soon in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!